All right, guys, who is a man that you admire? Who's a man that you admire? Just think about it. Who's a man that you admire? You look up to, you go, man, that's a guy I would love to be like. Now ask yourself, what is it that you admire about him? What is it that when you look at him and you think about those things, what is it about him that you admire? Is it his kindness? Is it his grit, his leadership, his fitness, whatever it is? What is it about him that you go, man, I just admire that? And here's why we need to ask that question, because what we admire in others tends to be what we desire in ourselves. When we look at somebody else and we admire something in them, we're like, wow, that's amazing that this person can do X or Y or Z, and they have this ability, and they do this, and all these things. What we're actually realizing is that we're looking at ourselves, and whether it's our own insecurities, or whether we feel that we are incapable, or we're substandard, or we're inconsistent of those things in our lives. So we admire it in other people because they've figured out how to do that. When God created Adam, there were not any other men around. It was just Adam. So there wasn't somebody that he could admire. There wasn't somebody that could step in and mentor him. There wasn't a guy that he could kind of lean on and go, hey, how are we supposed to do this thing called being men? What are we supposed to do? So God creates Adam, and the first thing he does, and I love this, guys, you're going to love this, because the first thing that God does is he creates Adam, and then he gives him a job. He's like, I'm going to give you a job. So he creates Adam, and then he puts him in the middle of this garden. And the Bible says that God places Adam in the middle of the garden, and he gives him a purpose. He gives him a job. He says, I want you to take care of, and the word that's used is cultivate the garden. That's your job. Isn't it amazing when guys meet? Say, hey, what's your name? Oh, my name's so-and-so. And within the first 2 to 3 questions, there's a question that's asked. Guys, what is it? What do you do? What do you do? Because as guys, we instinctively know that the job that we choose or the job that we're in tends to have some identity with who we are. And we want to ask that question because we're meeting this guy and we're like, I want to know if I can like you or not. Because, listen, if you're, this or that, I'm like, oh, we are not on the same page. We cannot connect. Because it instinctively says something about you. Now, if that's right or wrong or whatever, I'm just telling you that's the way that it is. And you guys know that that's true. Because if you meet a guy and he's got a job that you're like, oh, that's weird. You're like, oh, we can't be friends. It's just the way that we are as guys, because jobs tend to be a part of our identity, whether for better or for worse, they tend to be a part of our identity. Now, here's what's interesting. God never does anything on accident. Never. Everything he does has purpose and specific intent to it. So if that's the case, God creates Adam, and the first thing he does is give him something to do. Because as guys, if we don't have something to do, we get in trouble really fast. Like really fast. We've got to do something. But what's even more interesting is the job that he gives Adam to do. He wants him to be a cultivator. So, if Adam is the first man, and we all extend as men from Adam, that means part of your DNA, part of the way that God created you, part of the way that God crafted you, part of the way he put the neurons and the atoms and the protons and the neutrinos and all the things together in your DNA, part of that, the base of that, is that you are a cultivator at heart. There are things that you want to do. Now, some of you are like, I've never done gardening in my life. The cultivating is not just about gardening. That's the easiest one. But let me give you a definition of cultivating and see if you understand. Cultivate, to nurture, to improve, or to grow something through care, attention, or study. Now, guys, how many times have you picked up a new tool? Have you gone to a new place to eat? Have you walked into a men's bathroom? And you thought to yourself or out loud, you know what would make this better? Right? We do it all the time. I don't know how many times I've bought a tool and I'm like, man, if only they would have put a thingamabob on the end of this, oh, it'd make it so much better. Why? Because inside of you and a part of your DNA is you're constantly wanting to improve and make things better, to fix it, to work on it, to take it and to work through all these things. God has wired us as men to constantly want to make things better, to improve things, to grow things, to study and figure out how things work so that if and when it breaks, we can fix it. Right, men? I mean, wait, come on, guys. That was, I've got a lot of work this morning. Okay. And ladies, I want you to listen. This is why when you come to your husband and you begin to tell him everything that's going on and how upset you are, and all you want him to do is listen, it makes him explode on the inside. And when you look at him and you say, I don't want you to fix it, that is bizarro world to us, because if something is broken, guys, what do we want to do? We want to fix it. We want to fix it. And you're like, no, I don't want you to fix it. You're like, okay, that doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't work. It doesn't track. We want to fix it. And so when you're like, hey, I just want you to listen, you're like, okay. And we listen and we do our best. And ladies, can you just be a little easier on your husband if he goes, well, you know, what you could do is, and just go, listen, honey, I appreciate that, but I don't want you to fix it because I like things broken. Just be honest with him. The truth is, as guys, we tend to fix stuff, in air quotes, that isn't even broken because we think we can make it better. And the great part is, if while we're trying to make it better, it ends up broken, then we can fix it. So we love this idea of cultivating and working on things. So all of my masculine cultivators today, I just want you to lean in because I want to show you how to cultivate your relationship with your wife. Or if you're not married, how to become the man that any woman would want to marry. And to be able to cultivate the relationships around you.